All right, good morning. Welcome back. It's the Avid Investor Podcast with me, your host, Josh Adamek. And today we're going to talk again about cash flow. In a previous episode, last episode, I talked about cash flow and the importance of having passive income. And today I'm going to dive into the details on how to create cash flow and how to create passive income. So, reason for that, first off, yesterday I was down in town in Pittsburgh having breakfast with a friend. Shout out to Yuri and Yuri's Jewelry. If you guys don't know Yuri, hands down best jeweler in town. Give him a follow on Instagram. It's Yuri's Jewelry. Let me see here. Yuri's Jewelry. Check out their website, call them, make an appointment, stop down. If you guys are looking for watches, engagement rings, a custom piece, Yuri is your guy. Trust me, you won't go wrong with Yuri's Jewelry. So anyways, I was in town. Yuri and I, we were having breakfast. We were catching up. Had a great meal, had a great time. We're just talking about business and strategies and things like that and opportunities. And Yuri brought up the podcast, not particularly my podcast, but another podcast that he was listening to. And he had said, these these podcasts are great. There's, some good information out there. But he had mentioned, what he's seeing is a lot of ideas. This is what can be done. That's what can be done. But what's missing is the details on actually how to do it. So what I try to do with my podcast is provide the concept and then the resources that will allow you to do what's been done, to do what I've done, to do what we've created, and grow your business and create your portfolio, manage your portfolio, create your investment type business. So that's what I try to do with this podcast, the Avid Investor Podcast. So again, thank you to Yuri. Thank you for the input. Thank you for the feedback. And if anyone else has feedback on something that you'd like me to cover, something that you'd like me to dive into greater detail, or a topic that I haven't covered yet, please send me a message, reach out, call, text, DM, whatever. Hit me up. Let me know. I welcome the feedback. I appreciate the feedback, and it's only going to help me, get better and provide more content and more value for you guys. So that's what it's all about here. So anyways, back to cash flow. Again, previous episode, we talked about what is cash flow and the importance of creating passive income. And today we're going to talk about how to create that passive income. So there's many ways to create passive income, through sales, through residuals, through trails, things like that. It's common in the insurance industry to create residual income. What that means, you sell a policy, that policy renews on an annual basis, or I don't know, I assume it's an annual basis, maybe it's a monthly basis, but you create that trail, that residual income on that sale. So you sell the policy and you create that trail. So the importance of to me, it's very important to create passive income, regardless of what business or what industry you're in. If you're just commission-based salesman, you always got to work, you always got to sell, you always got to get that next customer, get that next close in order to fuel your lifestyle and feed your family. But if you're in a business or in an industry where you can create passive income, create residual income, that's where it's at, man. I mean, no, hands down, no questions asked. It's all about passive income. It's all about residual income. The sales are great. The sales are what feeds you today. But the passive and the residual is what feeds you and feeds your family and fuels your lifestyle for years, months, years, decades to come. So, again, very important to create passive income, very important to create residual income. The way we do it is through cash flowing real estate. My preferred our focus, my preferred investment strategy is single family homes. So you guys already know this, but the way we do it is we operate under a private equity model where we work one-on-one with private and institutional investors to create and manage portfolios. And what that does is that allows our investment partners the ability, it gives them the ability to own real estate, to get all the benefits of owning real estate. Well, my company, Avid, as the managing partner, does all the work. We create the portfolios, we source the properties, we stabilize the properties, we lease the properties, we do the day-to-day management. We handle the turns, we do all the back end, office, all the accounting, QuickBooks, source. We have our accountant do the tax returns, things like that. So it's a truly passive investment for our investment partners. For our management company, for our side, it's work. I mean, we do all the day-to-day that comes along with it, but in turn, we're creating passive income. We're creating cash flow through the private equity model. So that's how we do it. Traditionally, the more traditional way to go about it, or the more common way to go about it, I should say, is go out, buy a property, fix it up, refinance it, whether you buy cash, whatever. So typically, if you're new starting out in this business, you're green, you're like me. When I was 20 years old, I saw an opportunity in real estate. I was in the automotive industry, and then I saw what was being done or what could be done in real estate and owning real estate. And from my early 20s, I was hooked. Learning the business and realizing that I could own assets that other people paid me to live in, and I own the asset. I got the cash flow, I got the equity, got the tax benefits, the depreciation. So when I started in this business, I'm gonna tell you about that, because that's common on how most people get started on the active side. So as an investor, let's talk about that for a minute. When you want to invest in real estate, there's typically, two ways to go about it: active investor, passive investor. Active investor is someone that is going to go out, create and manage a portfolio. Someone that's going to go out and buy a property that's going to fix it up. Maybe not fix it up yourself, but you're still going to manage the general contractor, the handyman, the turns, the cleans, things like that. So that's the active investor. A passive investor would be like one of our equity partners that invests into a portfolio, while Avid, as the managing partner, does all the work. So active investor, passive investor, and active investor. So we're going to talk about the active side first. So assuming you're like I was in my early 20s, you're like, hey, this real estate thing seems pretty cool. I think I want to do it. I want to buy a couple of properties. I want to create a little extra cash flow. I want to create, something for the long term. So how do you go about doing that? First, step one is you got to hone in on what type of investment you're going to look for. Again, what we do with Avid, my preference is we create and manage portfolios of single family homes. Why is that? Our focus is safety and security for our investment partners and for our portfolios. So when I talk about safety and security, we invest in residential real estate, single family homes in B-class neighborhoods. Why not A neighborhoods? We do have some nicer properties in portfolio. We do some infill, new construction, land development, things like that. But for the portfolios, it's B-class neighborhoods, regular houses, regular neighborhoods. And when I say B-class neighborhoods, it's median price points for our area, for whatever part of city or whatever part of town you're in. It's median price points. So I know the market's crazy right now, but the median price point in Pittsburgh is somewhere right now, around $200,000. Last time I checked, it was like 183, 183.5 was the median price point. So we're not into the A neighborhoods. We're not into the exclusive neighborhoods. We're not into the $1 million homes. We're not into the $500,000 homes. We're not into the trendy parts of the city. We're just regular houses, regular neighborhoods. So a definition that I always use is, we buy grandma's house. So at least when I was growing up, grandma, grandpa lived in a decent little part of town, in a 3-bedroom house where they had, like 4 or 5 kids. My grandparents, they lived in just outside of McKeesport, a little town called Green Oak. So, the homes in that neighborhood, grandma's house, they're, $150,000 retail, but it's in a neighborhood, in an area where people want to live. It's not the best school district. It's not, it's not a, quad A sport, it's not an A school district with, the best teams out there, but with the highest ratings, anything like that. It's a just a regular school district. But it's B-class neighborhoods. That's where we invest in. We don't go into the A's, certainly don't go into the C's. And you're going to say, well, I can make all kind of money on Section 8 properties. I can buy this house for $15,000 and it's going to rent for $800 a month. And, I'm going to have, $700 a month cash flow, or I'm going to have $500 a month cash flow, or whatever. And I will remind you that everything looks good on a spreadsheet. We have had some Section 8 properties, some lower income properties, some C neighborhoods. When I started investing, that's where I was. I was in the C neighborhoods. The C neighborhoods, they can be good for cash flow. They also tend to be management intensive. You have a lot of turns, you have a lot of repairs, you have a lot of chasing for non-pays, things like that. So C neighborhoods are very management intensive. And then what you have with the C neighborhoods is you have a property that's, always going to be worth what you pay for it, give or take. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. Maybe it gets trashed and you got to spend a bunch of money and fix it up. Maybe the area gets worse over time and it's worth less than you pay for it. Maybe like where we're at right now, the market's up regardless of what neighborhood you're in. So maybe you've had a little bit of appreciation and you can find, work the I call it the greater fool theory. Find somebody that's willing to pay, more than you paid for it, and you can exit and make a little bit of money. That is possible in C neighborhoods, but it's also rolling the dice. So we invest in B class neighborhoods, regular houses, regular neighborhoods. One reason for that is there's always a demand for housing in B class neighborhoods. When the market's good, we're filling properties. We're finding good qualified residents that want to live in our homes. When the market is down, B-class neighborhoods tend to perform better when you're looking at long-term at cash flow properties. Why? Because, unfortunately, people that are in A neighborhoods, maybe losing their homes or downsizing, lost their job or whatever, and they're moving back to the B neighborhoods, where rents are a little bit cheaper, payments are a little bit cheaper. And, maybe that's where they should have been all along. But again, regardless of market conditions, B-class properties and B-class neighborhoods perform. So just look at it this way. In Pittsburgh, there's always going to be a need for $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month rental. So that's where we invest. So how do you do it? Let's get to the how, not the why. How do you do it? You need to find a property. Let's assume you don't know anything about real estate. You just want to get in real estate. How do you find a property? There's many ways to source properties. Of course, the MLS, you can work with a real estate agent. You can work with an investor-friendly real estate agent. There are some real estate agents out there that are investor-friendly. And I know I've talked about this before in previous episodes, but a good place to link up with an investor-friendly real estate agent is at your local RIA. RIA stands for Real Estate Investors Association. My RIA that I belong to and that I'm on the board and I help run is Acre of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. So it's acrepgh.com. Check it out. You want to come to a monthly meeting, come as a guest. You'll link up with all kind of resources there. So you can go with a real estate agent. Right now, they're again, the market's up, everybody's looking to buy, everybody's investing in real estate. There's some competition, fair amount of competition. So we here at Avid, we buy a lot of single family homes every year. We look at the MLS almost every day. We have the updates that come through with that fall within our buy box. So we look at stuff every day. However, we buy very few properties off the MLS every year. That's just reality. Typically where we buy is off market. So when it comes to off-market type properties, now don't get me wrong, there are deals to be found on the MLS. There are people that buy, friends of mine that buy a lot of properties off the MLS. We tend to be more selective. We look at stuff. If it makes sense, we'll make an offer. Sometimes we'll get it. Sometimes we won't get it. But we tend not to get into the bidding wars, the highest and best, and then going outside of our buy box, our guidelines. So we do look at MLS properties. We do buy properties off the MLS. Again, it's probably a couple a year, a handful at most. But where we tend to buy a lot of properties is off market. So off market real estate, that's where your deals can be found. And again, there's still competition there. It's not flip a switch, start a click funnel, or create a website or send out a batch of mailers, and then all of a sudden you're going to have all these deals flooding into your inbox, or all these calls coming. There's different methods that you got to work, different strategies you got to work to find those off-market deals. Now, one source that we use is, we buy a lot from wholesalers. And if you don't know, a wholesaler is somebody that markets to the masses, that spends a ton of money on marketing, that has, some of the wholesalers that we buy from have an entire team that are strictly out there, sourcing deals to secure those deals and pass them along through a release fee. Some use assignments, but typically through a release to another investor. So we tend to source a lot of properties through wholesalers. How do you link up with those wholesalers? Look on the internet. So again, there's a lot of wholesalers at your local REIA, Acre of Pittsburgh. You go to Acre of Pittsburgh, there's wholesalers in the room. There's properties for sale every month at the monthly meeting. Talking to people in the back of the room, you'll find out who the go-to wholesalers are. Go on the internet. There's a lot of groups out there on social media. There's Pittsburgh Real Estate Investors. There's Pittsburgh Properties for Sale. There's all these different subgroups on social media that you can go out and you can find, and you can connect with wholesalers. So, and so you can buy from wholesalers. You can do your own marketing. And secure your own deals. So let's just say, for example, you live in a certain neighborhood, or you work close to a certain neighborhood, or for whatever reason you like a certain pocket. You want to stay in the South Hills, you want to stay in the North Hills, you want to stay out near the airport, or you have a certain pocket that you've identified that you want to invest in real estate in that pocket. Well, you can market to that pocket. You can do, there's ways to do it online with ClickFunnels and just setting up GeoGrid and things like that, where, that people that are in that area that have a property for sale will see your pop-ups online. That's a little advanced, possibly when you're getting started, to set that up, or to pay somebody to set that up for you. Another way is to source off-market deals is to send out mailers. We've had success in the past with sending postcards, with sending yellow letters. Yellow letter is a letter that goes out. It's printed, but it looks like a handwritten yellow letter that says, "Hi, my name's Josh. I'd like to buy your house," or whatever the canned message is. I see you own the home at 123 Main Street. I buy homes in the area, and I'd like to make you a cash offer to purchase your home. So you can send that out to your target area. how do you get the list of addresses to send to? There's a number of ways to do that. You can go to a list broker, and there's list brokers out there. Again, just Google it, find somebody with some good reviews. I don't have a go-to list broker. I've used a couple in the past. But you can go to a list broker and you can say, hey, give me all the single family homes in this area. Or if you want to buy duplexes, you want to buy multi-units, give me all the duplexes that are in this zip code. Give me all the multi-units, all the 4-unit plus apartment buildings in this zip code. Whatever your criteria is, give them to your list broker. The more detailed you get on your criteria, the more it's going to cost you per lead. If you just say, give me all the addresses in 15237, that might be, 2 cents per address or 5 cents per address, or whatever that number is. If you say, I want all the homes in 15237 that have the owner that has had the same owner for 15 plus years, where the tax bill goes somewhere other than than that address, or you want, something that's before a certain build date or something like that, or after a certain build date. Let's say you don't want any 100-year-old homes. You only want something that's, 1950s or newer, or 1970s or newer. Well, you can give all that criteria to your list broker, but the more detailed you get on your criteria, the more it's going to cost you per lead. So you can work with a list broker, get that list of mailers. And you can send them postcards. You can go to yellowletterscomplete.com or, any other website that does, bulk mailers, and you can send the mailers out through that ways, to those leads. I will warn you that when you start sending mailers, one batch of mailers isn't going to get the phone to ring off the hook. There's typically, between 3% and a 10% response rate. So, if you just do the math on, however many mailers you're going to send out, how many calls you can expect. Typically like a 3 to 10% response rate. And again, that depends on market conditions. That depends on how many mailers that person is already getting from other investors. And, you're not going to be the only one sending them mailers. I promise you that. So, we go to the post office, we own a lot of properties, but we get a stack of mailers, not a stack, but we get a handful of mailers every week from, people that want to buy our properties. Why? Because we fell under their criteria of mailers. So send out your mailers. It's very important. Follow up is very important. So you send out one batch of mailers, you send out 1,000 mailers. Your response rate might be X, but follow up is key. So there's different systems that people teach and people offer, but it's the thing to know when it comes to mailers is it's better to mail to 1,000 people 5 times as opposed to mailing to 5,000 people 1 time. So follow up is key, and have your system in place. Send out a letter, send out a handwritten yellow letter, or send out some sort of letter. Follow up with a postcard, follow up with another postcard, or, have a system in place where you're going to send out, 5 or 6 or 10 mailers to that particular, batch, that particular address. And again, it's better to send, 5 mailers to 1,000 people than 1 mailer to 5,000 people. So focus on your mailers and follow up. Depending on what contact information you can get, you can from your list broker, you can send a mailer, you can follow up with a postcard, you can follow up with a phone call or a text. You got to watch, full disclosure, you got to watch the do not call list. I mean, you can get in some trouble, if you're calling people that are registered on the do not call list. So something to be cognizant of there is watch what you're doing. There are regulations in place, rules and regulations in place where you can get in trouble for soliciting. So careful with that, but send your mailers. Another, of course, calls as well. We talked about mailers. You can call people. I know there's call banks out there. Some people use VAs. I get calls all day long, every day. Hey, I'd like to buy your property at 123 Main Street. I probably get maybe 5-10 calls a day on average, and I'm not joking. People that are soliciting that want to buy homes. So, but again, that's a numbers game. And again, watch the do not call list. But if you're making calls, you can do it the old school way, where you can just pick up the phone, block off an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours every day, and call as many people as you can. And again, with that, follow up is key. So it would be better to call 1,000 people 5 times as opposed to calling 5,000 people 1 time. So follow up is where it's at. So you can mix the mailers, you can mix the calls. You can have a system for that. Another great source to find off-market properties, doesn't cost you any money. All it costs you is time, is what's known as driving for dollars and or door knocking. I can tell you that I have bought properties, several properties, not dozens, but a number of properties from driving for dollars and door knocking. Driving for dollars is you have your area where you're looking to buy, drive around, look for sale by owners, look for properties that may be in disrepair, look for properties that mail's hanging out of the mailbox, that the mail hasn't been picked up in a month. Look for properties that the grass hasn't been cut for a while, and get out of the car, start knocking on doors and talking to people. If the property is obviously vacant, it's likely that nobody's going to be home. Somebody might be there, but nobody that you want to talk to is going to be in that home. But if you start working the neighborhood, knocking on doors, if you start walking around the neighborhood, you'll be surprised at how many potential opportunities you'll see walking a neighborhood, street by street, block by block, as opposed to, driving through that neighborhood at, 15, 20, 25, 40 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is. When you slow down, take the time, walk through the neighborhood, you see far more opportunities. And what you can do, what you can accomplish with door knocking and walking neighborhoods is talking to people, talking to neighbors. I promise you, every neighborhood has the grandma, the little old lady, the neighbor that knows everybody's business. So if you start walking around and talking to people, and again, you got to watch. Some neighborhoods have a no solicitation policy, and even though you're not selling anything, you're looking to buy, and you're looking to help people solve their problems. You can get in trouble for if you don't have a permit, you can get in trouble for door knocking. So just check or be aware that some neighborhoods have regulations in place. So that's it. Door knocking, driving for dollars. I've personally bought several single family homes and a multi-unit years ago from door knocking and talking with people, calling for sale by owners. One property in particular, it was in Aspen Mall. We were doing a lot of stuff in Lower Aspen Mall at the time. We had several renovations going on. This was several years back, and we're looking for more opportunities. So I'm like, there's only like 5 streets here. I think there's 5 streets in Lower Aspen Mall. It's 5 blocks. So I just went out and I started driving the neighborhood. And I started walking around street by street, block by block. And sure enough, I came across a for sale by owner sign. And the house looked beautiful from the outside, perfectly landscaped. It looked okay. The facade of the house, it was a little aged, a little weathered, but the landscaping set it off, and it was a for sale by owner. So I called. It looks like a great house. Looks like it could be full retail price, but I called the for sale by owner. I talked to the lady, super nice lady. Met her at the house and got to know her a little bit. Turns out she's a landscaper by trade. That's why her yard looked beautiful. She had retaining walls, trees, flowers, all kind of stuff. Looked beautiful. Go into the house. It needed a full renovation. Full renovation. So it looked nice from the outside, but once you got inside, it needed work. It was priced as a for sale by owner, priced appropriately. So we ended up, we didn't end up buying the home from that seller, but we planted the seed from the seller. Shortly after that, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, something like that, the home ended up going back to the bank through foreclosure. The banker called us because we were in contact with the seller. Banker called the seller, we built that rapport, built that relationship. The seller said, here, call this guy. I think he'd like to buy this home. So we ended up buying the home, from the bank after the foreclosure. The bank, wouldn't allow us to purchase the property from the seller pre-foreclosure. They were already, too far along in the process or whatever. So anyways, we ended up getting that deal through, door knocking and driving for dollars and talking to people. That lead cost us nothing other than time. So that's how you find properties. And I know I'm getting into a lot of details here, but there are a lot of details when it comes to creating passive income. So that's how you find the properties. Now, how do you finance the properties? How do you pay for the properties? How do you fund the deal, fund the transaction? That's another aspect of the business. So you've got your property, and before you start making cash offers, you want to have your financing lined up, your funding lined up. There's many ways to do it. There's bank financing. If you're buying a property that's distressed, that needs a lot of work, bank financing out of the gate may not be the best method. You can pay cash for the property if you have piles of cash sitting around. And again, this is assuming you're on the active investor side. You can pay cash for the property. You can stabilize the property. You can refinance it. Responsibly refinance it. Take that cash out to buy more properties, assuming you're not just sitting on tens of millions of dollars where you just want to place it in real estate. So you can bank financing is one way to finance these properties. Paying cash, obviously, is the quickest and easiest way to pay for these properties if you have the cash available. Some people use like a home equity line of credit, or something that they have, that they own other assets, or they own real estate. And I'm not suggesting any one particular method. I'm just telling you ways to go about doing it. So some people use a home equity line of credit and are okay with putting their home up as collateral in their investment properties. So that's another way to do it. Hard money lenders. If you're young, like I was, just starting out, you have okay credit, you have maybe little or no money. Hard money lenders are a great source. Hard money lenders, private lenders. A hard money lender is someone that's in the business of lending money, secured by an asset, with typically with hard money lenders, it's asset-based lending. A lot of hard money lenders will require you to put a little bit of skin in the game, some of your own cash in the deal, depending on the strength, one, of the borrower, and two, the strength of the deal. It's more asset-based lending. So hard money lenders are in the business of lending money in investment real estate. It's high interest money. It's short-term loans, but it allows you to get into the business, get the deal done, and get the property, get the project secured, stabilize the property, and then typically go to either sell the property or go to the bank and refinance the property. And I know there's a lot, some people are like, well, I'm not paying those rates. I'm not, that's crazy that he wants, X, interest rate. He wants 12%. He wants 10%. He wants 15%. He wants, they want points. They want, this fee, that fee. Well, guess what? When it comes to lending, when it comes to hard money lending, it's a line item on the spreadsheet. If your deal supports the cost of the financing and there's still margin, there's still spread, there's still equity, look at it that way. It's a cost of doing business. If you have no money, or little money, it's a way for you to get into the business. It's a way for you to start to build your portfolio. It's a way for you to, start creating your passive income and your cash flow. So hard money lenders are a good source. Private lenders are a good source. If you have a friend or an aunt or an uncle, or someone that that is looking for passive investment type opportunities, they can become your bank, where they can lend you money either through a partnership or through a acting as the bank, holding a note and a mortgage against the property. I've worked with a lot of hard money lenders in the past. I've worked with a lot of private lenders in the past. And then another way to go about doing is through like we do through equity partnerships. We work one-on-one with private and institutional investors to create managed portfolios. So what we do is we offer accredited and institutional investors the opportunity to own real estate while we do all the work as the managing partner. So those are some ways to finance the property. You figured out how to find the properties. You figured out, I told you how to finance the properties. And then of course, once you buy the property, you're going to have to fix it up. You're going to have to either sell it or, lease it out. You're going to have to manage the property. So when it comes to fixing the property, you're going to have to find a general contractor. Of course, I recommend, if you're new to the business, you're learning the business, I recommend that you be as hands-on as possible in your first couple of renovations. Why? Because I think it's very important to understand the process. If you don't understand construction, you don't know construction, you absolutely need to learn construction and understand construction. And I'm not saying you need to learn how to rewire an entire house. I'm not saying you need to learn how to replumb an entire house, but you need to understand the process and learn the process, everything that's involved with construction and renovation and things like that. So I recommend you be hands-on as possible. When I was buying my first, when I was investing, building my portfolio, at first I was very hands-on. Now, granted, I wasn't doing full gut renovations. I was doing a lot of paint, kitchens, bathrooms, some exterior stuff, some flooring, some cosmetics, but I was very hands-on. One, because I was trying to, save some money on the renovations. And two, I was trying to learn the business and learn the process. Now I was hands-on in the automotive industry, so I was able to pick things up very, very quickly. But it's very important that, regardless of, if you're in the business, that you understand construction, you understand the process, that you understand how all aspects of construction work. So you found the property, you finance the property, you're going to fix the property up, then you're going to lease the property. If you're going to self-manage the portfolio that you're growing, I will forewarn you. It's when you're starting out and you're doing all aspects of the business yourself, it's very cumbersome. But you got to look at the end goal. You got to look at the end game. You have to look at, past the current struggles and the current hurdles that you're working through. You got to look at the long term. So when you're starting out, you got 1, 2, 3 properties in portfolio, and you see that you got some turns that you're dealing with, you got some repairs that you're dealing with, you got a property that goes vacant, and you have two homes in portfolio. It's like, oh shit, you got a 50% vacancy. Well, that sucks. But you got to look at the long term. When you get to the point you have 10 or 20 or 30 homes in portfolio, things or more than that, as you grow, you gain the ability to put systems in place, to have your management software, to add to your team, to put some efficiencies in place. But that's common, that's growing pains. So again, if you're in single family homes, it can be painful, your first couple of years when you buy another house and you stabilize the house, and it's like, oh yeah, great, you got $300-400 a month in cash flow, and then you have a repair to deal deal with, and that sucks up your cash flow. I mean, that's just the reality of the business. Or you have a property that goes vacant, you have 2 or 3 homes, and it's like you got a 30 or 50% vacancy in your portfolio. Well, that sucks. But look at the long term. When you get to the point you got 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 homes in portfolio, and you have some repairs to deal with, you have some vacancy to deal with, it's part of the business. I mean, it becomes part of the business. So that's it. You got your acquisitions, your funding, your construction, your management. How do you lease the property? I mean, you market it. We typically market online. We use a system, management software. It's called Appfolio. So we do all of our marketing through Appfolio. It goes out to Facebook, Craigslist, Hot Pads, and all kinds of other sites. When our potential residents click on the I'm interested button, it comes back into Appfolio, generates a guest card. We call them, we follow up, we direct them to the website to fill out an application. So that's how we market through our software. But when you're starting out, post some ads on Facebook, post some ads on Craigslist. When you get your applicants coming in, you should have an application that you use. You can email them the application. You can meet them in person. When you don't have your systems in place, you got to do more of the steps yourself. But get your application, do your credit check, do your criminal background check. The pathonetary civil docket, local magistrate filings. Check that resident out. Check them out, and have your criteria ahead of time on make sure so you're not violating any fair housing or anything like that. Have your criteria that the resident has to meet in order to qualify for your home. So if you want some more information on fair housing, just Google it. You can read everything you need to know about fair housing rules and regulations and things like that. So you have you've marketed, you screen your resident. We can get into more detail later on criteria, things like that, but you need to have your set criteria. Then when you stabilize the property, when you move that resident in, there's the management that comes along with it. So we typically, if you're starting out, I would suggest setting up a Google Voice number so that your residents can contact you, have an email address, have a separate number that they can call, text to reach out. Have a handyman ready to go. If you have an issue to deal with, management repair type thing, make sure you have a handyman on call or somebody that you can rely on, because the maintenance calls, they tend to come at the worst possible times. At 5 o'clock on a Friday, on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Tuesday night. Things pop up, things happen. It's part of the business, but you want to make sure that you have your go-tos lined up prior to needing them, so that when you do need them, you're not scrambling. So that's it. That's a process. But what I should back up on, is criteria on the purchase. So when we're looking to, I talked about how to find a property, how to market and how to find a property. But I talked about our buy box, what we look for. But I probably should dive into the details itself on that buy box. So when I say buy box, it's our criteria that we look for when purchasing a single family home. So we look for minimum equity. We look in certain areas. We look in the B-class neighborhoods. I already talked enough about that. Regular houses, regular neighborhoods, $150,000 to $200,000 neighborhoods. Some a little bit lower, some a little bit higher, but that's like the target neighborhood. So we look in those B-class neighborhoods. When we underwrite a property for purchase, we look for minimum equity requirements. So we look for at least 30% equity after all costs, purchase, renovation, closing costs, some cash reserves, closing costs, fees, everything that's involved with the purchase of the property are all in. We look for at least 30% equity. So we're not, paying too much for the property. We're not, again, we're in regular houses, regular neighborhoods, but we also buy responsibly. So we look for 30% minimum equity. We look for certain cash on cash returns. Those vary slightly. Our cash on cash return, we might accept a little bit, lower cash on cash return if we have greater equity, or we might find a property that's a really good buy where we get a much higher cash on cash return. So, but we look for certain equity, certain neighborhoods. We look for certain equity requirements. We have certain cash on cash returns, and we look at those projections over a 5-year period for the average cash on cash return. And that when I say cash on cash return, our all in our all in price, our all in number. And what the property rents for each month, less taxes, insurance, and other costs associated with the monthly holding costs on the property. So whatever our net is, our bottom line, that's the number that we use to calculate our cash on cash return average over a 5-year period. So that's how we underwrite a property. Everybody's buy box is going to look a little bit different, but that's our requirements. So again, that's how we go about creating cash flow and creating passive income, is through the method that I just spelled out: how to acquire properties, how to finance properties, how to manage properties, and how to create the portfolio. We do that over and over and over and over and over again, and that's how we create the cash flow and the passive income. So again, I know I went on, with this message, with this podcast, but there was a lot of things that I wanted to cover when it comes to the how-to of creating cash flow and creating passive income. So my hope is that you found value in this message, that you found value in what I laid out for you today. And again, the only thing I ask in return is share this with someone that can benefit from this message. So, and again, give me some feedback on the content that we're providing. Let me know, what you want me to dive into in greater detail. Let me know what topics, what subjects you want me to cover, and, help me, serve you guys better. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time and listening. And again, doing this for you guys. So, let me know what you want me to dive into and provide more information on. So that's it for today. That's how to create cash flow and how to create passive income. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.